Welcome to SLC Fanboys, three guys who love Star Wars, comic books, gaming, movies, and fangirls. Adam Thomas, self-appointed Starfleet captain and Cylon sympathizer. Andy Farnsworth, comic book Jedi and George Lucas apologist. Tyson Webb, Comic-Con moderator and amateur Sith. These are the SLC Fanboys.
Adam Thomas and Andy Farnsworth back this week, but not to complain, or at least I won't be complaining about the slow production process of Star Trek Discovery and other things along those lines, because, Andy, we have some special guests in the studio today, and...
Yeah, you'll have plenty of time for complaining later.
Yes, because... Today isn't a good time for complaining because I understand we have some hope in the studio today.
Indeed. In fact, we're excited to have the brand new film, Tim Timmerman, Hope of America, opening on March 3rd. And we've got the director and co-writer Cameron Sawyer and one of the producers on the film, Travis Morgan. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Now, I got to see Tim Timmerman, Hope of America last night, so I've got plenty of things that I want to ask you about. But first, before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about the film? Let's set up some background. In fact, why don't we start with a clip from Tim Timmerman, just kind of give you an idea of what we're starting with here.
Okay, Yale application, take one. Greetings, Yale Admission Committee. My name is Tim Timmerman. I'm student body president of Mount Vista High School. Let me just start by saying that education is very important to me.
Tim, GPA this low, getting to Yale is going to be pretty much impossible.
I only surround myself with friends who exhibit the highest standard of character. I also do service at a deaf kids school.
See what happens.
Yes! Yes!
3 in a row. And lastly, you should know, for the last few months I have been shadowing a U.S. senator.
I'm Tim Timmerman. I'm student body president of Mount Vista High School.
Well, you probably shouldn't be in here.
No, I shouldn't.
Thank you for your consideration. I'm sure that I'm going to be hearing from you very soon.
So many things about that. So many things about that. So tell us a little bit about okay, so this is something I noticed when I was watching the film too,
Yeah.
and you can get this from the vibe from just the clip that we just watched. There's a very Ferris Bueller-esque vibe that comes from this movie. I would also add, having watched the movie, I distinctly felt Better Off Dead.
Better Off Dead. I knew you were going to say that.
I distinctly felt Better Off Dead as I watched that movie.
Yeah. And we thought the same thing. Like, when we made the movie, we were like, this reminds us a lot of Ferris Bueller and Better Off Dead.
These are two great movies, so this is not a bad thing to be compared to. Two of my favorite.
Yeah, that wasn't intentional, but we did want to make a movie that was fun and that reminded us of 80s and 90s movies. So I'm glad that you thought that.
I did, and I definitely vibed that as I was watching it. I may have even written it down on my notes that I vibed on both. But So give us a little bit of background on the film. So, because it's not just something that you wrote. This is something that you wrote, having read a little bit. This is a very personal movie.
It is. So
this is Cameron Sawyer, the director.
Yeah, this is Cameron Sawyer, the director. So I made a short film about my first relationship in the 5th grade. It was called She's a Fox.
Okay.
And it did really well on the festival circuit. And I had some producers say, you should do a movie about your life in high school. And I said, that would be awesome. And I was the worst student body president in high school history. So I thought this could be really nice. Like, I was seeing all these politicians in the news, these mega personalities who grab the spotlight and but sometimes don't make the best decisions. And I was like, that was me in high school. So I'm going to make a movie about my experiences as just a horrible leader in high school. And that's what this is.
And now this is another thing. So our podcast originates out of Salt Lake City, Utah. Mm-hmm. And I grew up here in Salt Lake and went to high school in Utah.
Where'd you go?
I went to West Jordan High.
Okay. Yeah.
And let's see, you were actually student body president here in Utah.
I was student body president at Orem High School in the 1900s.
In the 1900s. Yeah, that's the way to refer to it. Yeah.
Yeah, 1995.
So you're graduate. Okay,
Yeah.
and so Tim is president of. Now this is where some of the local ties that I find interesting that maybe other people won't find as interesting as I did. Mm-hmm. So Mountain View High is in Orem.
Yes.
The rival of Orem High School.
Yes.
And that's where this film was shot. So you shot this movie
at my rival high school.
At your rival high school.
And you're confused by that, aren't you?
Not really confused, but I was just like,
Why was that on purpose, or was that?
So It's set in the 90s, right? The movie. Orem High School, I was so upset. They ripped their old school down and they built a new school.
It was a too
Oh,
new of a
stupid
school
progress.
building.
Oh.
So I should have told them to wait, to hold
What
off.
would the name
Don't
of
rip
the
the
school
down.
have been if it was at Orem High?
I don't know.
Because it worked out with Mont Vista,
It did,
which is
with
Tim's
Mount
high school
Vista,
with
yeah.
Mountain View.
We actually tried to get Mountain View's name and logo, and they wouldn't allow it, so we
Really?
changed the name.
Why?
I don't know.
In case the movie didn't do well.
And you didn't
Yeah,
want
they're
to.
like, if the movie
if
bombs,
this is no good, we don't want it.
we don't want it if it bombs.
Well,
Yeah.
they're going to regret this.
And you didn't want to borrow maybe the Beat Diggers from up north or something like that?
We actually looked
Too
at
new
Jordan.
of a school.
We looked at Jordan, and I really liked the Beat Digger statue, and we'd planned on shooting at Jordan at one of
Really?
the schools. Yes, and Alta ended up being a school that we shot out instead, and I can't
Does
remember.
that became Taft? Because which high school was Taft?
So Taft, we shot at Timpanogos High School in.
Okay, so the big T. I was thinking maybe it was Timpview.
Yeah.
I know you drove past Timpview in the scene where he's doing the
Yes.
car surfing.
Yeah, and actually, you guys know this phrase or this term in film. It's called Frankensteining it.
Yes.
So we shot at 4 different high schools, and it's
Depending
super,
on what you needed.
I'm not even going to try to explain like which high school is which because we
That's
shot
fair.
exteriors for some, interiors, just depending on what we liked. But it was Timpview, Mountain View, Alta, and Timpanogos.
Well,
All seemingly edited into one master
to
school.
one Mont Vista High School.
Right. Exactly.
So, what gave you the idea for this specific? I mean, did you? Okay, so just to give a couple of rough plot details, Tim he's the student body president and he's a slacker. So that's where the Ferris Bueller vibe comes from.
Yes.
But he also has dreams of being a politician, which after you watch him for 3 minutes, you think he's an excellent politician, very good politician.
There's
he
certain
knows
things
how
he's
to
good
get.
at, yeah.
He's very good at people, and
Yeah.
you know, as you get older. So I took my originally I was going to go with Adam, but he couldn't go.
Yeah.
Then I was going to take my teenager.
Yes.
Because he's about to go into high school, and of course this is exactly what high school is like. But then he couldn't go, and so I ended up taking my 7-year-old.
Is that right?
I did.
Interesting.
And I was kind of like, oh, you're not going to like this probably very much. But you know what? He loved it.
Oh,
And I'll tell you,
interesting.
what? Who he loved the most was Ross.
Ross Thompson. Yeah. The goth assassin.
Exactly. In fact, that's what I wrote down on my notes. Legendary goth assassin.
Yes,
He
yes.
remembered Ross's name on the drive home.
Are you serious?
I'm not kidding you. He's like, I
Wow.
really liked it when Ross was trying, and I won't say how everything ended up,
Trying
but
to get Tim.
but so that's one of the things I also wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
One of the keys in this, one of the running subplots in the movie, besides Tim trying to get into Yale, which is what we saw in the clip, he wants to get into Yale. He realizes that his grades aren't good enough. He sort of thought being elected student body president would sort of pat his resume to where all he has to do is get in.
Yeah.
But then he finds out he'll be lucky, and this is something I needed to bring up to you.
Yes.
He'll be lucky to get into the U of U, and he's probably better suited for
Slick.
Solid Community College,
Yes.
which is the 2 schools that I went to.
Yes. You are Tim Timmerman.
In fact, there was. I actually thought that a couple times. I was like, "This is Tim Timmerman." I graduated in 1994.
Okay.
I ran for senior class president, but I lost even worse than.
Who did you lose to?
I lost worse than Mackenzie did.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but here was the thing, though. See, I lost to the girl who lost in the student body elections, and I was running for class president.
So she was
and
kind of a
she
shoo-in.
lost in an upset,
Yeah.
and she was pretty.
Oh.
And I really didn't stand a chance, despite my superior signage and slogans: "Vote for Andy, get free candy."
Oh, that was.
And I threw out
didn't work?
candy, and it didn't work.
Oh man.
I lost in grade school to a guy who danced like Pee Wee Herman, and
You did?
Yeah, and
On
I thought,
stage?
Yeah, and
Like that's how he clinched it.
And I
Did
thought,
he even have tequila playing?
Yeah, he dressed up like Pee Wee Herman, had the tequila song playing, and I was like, I'm done.
Oh.
And then in high school,
He didn't have a chance. He
and
didn't
then-
have a
yeah,
chance.
and then in high school, I ran against a guy who could mimic Michael Jackson. He sang and danced like Michael Jackson. I'm like, I'm done.
But you beat him,
But I
right?
beat him. I don't know how I edged him out. I can't
Well,
even.
just
I don't
as
remember.
Tim says, all you need is 51% of the
vote.
vote.
Yes. That's right.
Actually, that's a great philosophy that he has at one point. So he takes a guy under his wing by the name of Jessup.
Jessup.
Which is such a Utah name.
Yeah.
Such a Utah name.
That's why we
In
picked
fact,
it.
I was
Yes.
wondering if it was Jessup with a U or an O.
Oh yeah. We picked Jessup. Craig Jessup and some of those other Utah.
It was great.
Celebrities.
He could have come straight from Hilldale, or he could have been born,
Yes.
Anywhere else. So
Yes.
he takes Jessup under his wing. Jessup wanting to kind of run for
For
class
president.
president the next year. And actually, that's one of the things I thought about Timmerman. So Eddie Perino, who has been on some Nickelodeon shows, if you watched Lab Rats,
Lab
I know
Rats.
this. He kind of looks like Sean William Scott a little bit.
Really?
I think he does. Look at some pictures of Sean William Scott.
interesting.
He looks like a slightly younger. I mean, look at back there.
Yeah,
Look at
I
a
see it.
slightly
I
younger
see it.
version of Sean William
Interesting.
Scott.
Kind of in the
So
eyes.
he
Yeah.
could be an intensely dislikable person
Yes.
from some of the stuff that he does, but he's so dang charming.
You know, we've had a lot of people say he reminds them of Jim Carrey. Just in the way his actions and just how he acts, which I thought was great
Some of
because
his mannerisms.
His mannerisms, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can see a little bit of that from the trailer. Yeah, because
Yeah.
he expressive, very expressive.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. He's a very physical actor, and I think that works well. 'Cause
Everything
it's a 90s
hinges
movie.
on him because this is the trick. And I've always been kind of like on the fence of the locally produced films
Right.
because not to bag on the Singles Ward, but I know people who loved the Singles Ward, and I did not enjoy it at all.
Yeah.
It was like it was a bunch of jokes crammed into. That was the plot of the movie. Was how many jokes can we get in that are inside to Utah?
Yes.
Whereas I
Right.
felt like
Yeah.
the jokes that were inside to Utah here were kind of incidental. Like if you're from Utah or you were a high school
Yeah.
kid in the '90s, then you'll be like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not the reason for the movie to exist, is
No.
to throw those
it's
jokes
not the
in.
plot. It's not, it's
No.
not the driving force behind the movie, is it?
No.
Yeah.
But we had to drop the word perfect reference.
I
Do
did
you remember
see
that?
no, that was good. But that's funny anyway,
Yeah,
because even if you weren't in Utah, you
Yeah.
knew what word perfect was.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
from 90 to 94, if you took a computer class or a typing class, it was on word perfect.
That's right.
We didn't even have Windows. 311 was available, but
Yeah.
unless you took this specific computer class, you weren't allowed to use it.
Do you know what was crazy is that my high school, we were absolutely 100% middle class. Everyone was middle class.
At
then
Orem High.
At Orem High. And then Word Perfect comes out, and I witnessed it before my eyes. Like, all these kids showing up in Lexuses and BMWs to school.
Because the word perfect guys were from
they
Orem,
made
weren't
so
they?
much money, yeah. And so that I've always remembered that, and that was a big, Word Perfect. Everyone looked up to Word Perfect, so it was fun
Well,
to
yeah.
reference that.
And now nobody, and that's, I bet most of the kids will be like, is that Microsoft Word? Is that what it used to be called?
what do they mean by Word Perfect?
Right.
And so at one point, Tim asks to borrow a quarter, and I leaned over to my 7-year-old
yeah.
and said, before cell phones, we had to use a quarter to pay to make a call.
And he's,
And
like,
I'm sure he was like,
Yeah. Do you know what we used to do, by the way? You just reminded me of this. My mom would drop us off at the water park, and
which you did get a shot of.
Yeah, we got a shot of
Seven Peaks
water
Provo.
park.
Yep.
Anyway, when we were done, we would call collect, and it would say, and we'd say, "Mom, come pick us up." So it would say, "Do you accept a phone call
Yeah.
from Mom? Come pick us up."
Yeah.
Yes.
She'd say, "Nope," and hang up. And say, come pick us up.
We had a Baby Eats a
So
Boy.
great.
They had a commercial for that. I actually tried to
yeah,
call
yeah.
collect from Scout Camp.
Yeah.
And my youngest brother answered the phone, and at the time he was probably 7.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand what this operator.
going
So
on.
he hung up.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And so I called again, and he hung up, and I'm like 12.
And you're stuck at
and I'm at
Scout
Scout Camp, and I called home for, I don't even remember the reason, but then I was like, my parents don't want to talk to me.
They have disowned you. There is no family to
love
go
it.
home to.
But I was like, they won't even take the
it's so
call. Like,
good.
what if I was dying? They won't even take the call.
It's like a Flight of the Navigator scene for you. You're going to go back after the camp.
After several years
They're
later,
not going to recognize. It's what is.
I had to
this?
break into my own window when I got home. Well, let's take a quick break. When we get back, I want to go into a little bit more of the of some of the plot of the movie, and I want to talk about some of the characters because I really enjoyed what you did, and I'm really hoping that people will come and give this a shot. One thing that one of our colleagues here at KSL, Doug Wright, always says is, if you ever complain about there not being quality or family friendly, the type of cinema that you can take your family to, then you got to go when these kinds of movies come out. If you've ever had a complaint, oh, I wish they'd make something that I could take my whole family to. Well, I just took my 7-year-old to a movie about high school, and he enjoyed it, and I had no worries at any point. Well, maybe one little
Let's talk
point.
about that.
We will. We'll
Let's
talk about that after the break. I'm sure you know what it is. But SLC Fanboys, we're here with Cameron Sawyer and Travis Morgan from Tim Timmerman, Hope of America.